Thank you so much for having me speak with you all today. Since I met Evelyn at Canteen a few years ago, I've been really in awe of the work that you're doing in Ireland, and I feel really happy to be part of this really ambitious, wonderful day. So thank you to Evelyn and Patricia and Helen and the amazing people that put all this together. So thank you so much. And I'm sorry that we can't be together in person just yet, because I know just how well Canteen can throw a party, Evelyn. Thank you. And because this is more fun when I can see all of your faces and bald heads and crutches and dark under eye circles and bloating and weight loss, all of it. Even though I can't see you, I know that you're beautiful out there. I hope we can hang out sometime together soon. Before I jump into what I want to talk about today, I want to acknowledge some really important people in our cancer community that often go unmentioned or at least undermentioned. And this is people that have passed, died, and those who grieve for them. If this is you listening to this, or you might be someone dealing with a terminal diagnosis, and a special welcome to you today. As I approach my 20th year since I had cancer, I'm conscious more than ever that the stories we hear about cancer are told almost exclusively by the survivors. And I'm sad that those members of our community, our cancer-speaking nation, have died. I'm sad that they've died. And I'm also sad that their voices are no longer with us to teach us about what we're doing right, what we're getting wrong, when we talk about cancer and what lies beyond. So I think about my cancer community very regularly, especially ones that are no longer here. Lara Veach, Gia Jones, Ina Mikhailov, Adam Greenberg, Lynn Ruth Miller, and Tim Jeeves, to name just a few. I think about their voices often, and I hope that with whatever I say today, and always on the subject, I would make them proud with my words. So let's jump in. The shittiest thing about having cancer when you're an adult is that no one else does. Like, you're the only one of a kind, a statistical anomaly, a weirdo, abnormal. And though I think I was an abnormal weirdo and a one-of-a-kind statistical anomaly before my diagnosis in October 2001, the loneliness of being the only one going through something like this is so intense. I don't know if your experiences were like mine, but I remember walking down the street, seeing normals, or at least what I assumed were normal people, thinking, how are you living a normal life? How is your world not totally changed? What is happening? And of course, there's a bit of jealousy in this moment, but it was for me a feeling of complete disconnection and alienation from the non-cancer-filled world. All of these other people are on a different time schedule and living in a different physical reality that feels so foreign. What is it like for you to have never heard a cancer diagnosis lobbed in your direction? What is it like to have a body that has never tried to kill you? Which is why we gather in organizations, with charities and support groups and walkathons and in WhatsApp groups, in the shared bays where we receive chemotherapy. We find our people, especially at a time when our realities, the largeness, the emotional bigness of our cancers can be overwhelming for the normal, for the people not yet with cancer, and often even for our family and friends. But what happens when we gather? We're also opening ourselves up to more people who are statistical anomalies. The highs of these relationships are very high. We get each other, we know the same comfy chair or help for a drink for nausea. We advise each other on benefits forms and pain managements. And together we share and laugh deep, guttural, sick, twisted laughs about our situations. But the lows are also super low. If we didn't come together to meet other young people with cancer or parents of people with cancer, we probably would not meet other young people with cancer or their families in our lives. And if and when they do get sick or they pass away, we wouldn't be devastated so regularly or sad or panicked. But the only piece of advice that I would dare to give a group of young people, if you will allow me, is that you must stay connected to your cancer community. And it will happen, unfortunately, that people in the community will get sick. But I promise you, the emotional pain that comes with that, the pain of seeing a friend suffer, is the only pain in this whole situation that is worth enduring. It's the pain of caring and allowing yourself to be cared for. That makes you strong. Doesn't make it worth it. It doesn't explain the why me's and the why now's, but surviving the pain of caring for others who need your care, this, I believe, makes you very strong. You can't unhear it, a diagnosis. It has an explosive quality to it, doesn't it? The world has changed, and the person you were before is gone. Of course, we can make this new person cool and awesome and fun and sexy and smart and important and sexy, but the person from before is gone. We deserve time to mourn that person. They were so carefree and innocent, naive even. And they were awesome in so many unique ways. But after a period of reflection, of mourning, we need to move this new body forward on its life journey. And I struggled with my body for ages when I was young. When you're young and have cancer, you often ask yourself, or people ask you, would you like to return to before? Would you go for a test a few weeks earlier? What would happen if you didn't have cancer? Would your life be like it is now? Something that's terrible to hear when you're young, but not when you're old, is that time only moves forward. And though I know it doesn't feel like it now, the questions of what if, why, how, to what ends, they quiet when you get older. And you realize that while cancer will be one of the biggest milestones in your life, one of the biggest moments of change, one of the biggest moments of reflection, of struggle, of togetherness, of loneliness, of pain, of laughter, it's not going to be the only one. I only wish that cancer I had was the most change-inducing part of my life. I really do, but there have been and there will be many others. So, is it my wish that you experience more world-changing experiences in your life, some that are even more traumatic than a cancer diagnosis and treatment? No. But I know it will often happen. 20 years. Next month is my anniversary, my 20th Cancerversary. The traditional anniversary gift for a 20th wedding anniversary is china. So last week I bought myself this plate. It's not the fanciest or finest of chinas, but it's mine. Thank you, Cancer. My 20th Cancerversary next month coincides with my 40th birthday. I know if you're a young adult with cancer, 40 seems like super old and you'll never think you're going to be ancient like me. I know. But stay with me. But as I'm 40 next month, and it's my 20th Cancerversary, next month marks the moment in my life when I've been around longer after my cancer diagnosis than I had been before. It's a tipping point. A moment when I've been more in the world of cancer than a world of those who think that cancer will never affect them. They say that you can call yourself as being from a place after living there 10 years. What about 20? And what about that moment when you've lived more of your life there than anywhere else? So more than being just from cancer, from the place of cancer now, I guess I can truly call myself a cancer local. But what does it mean to be a cancer local? It means to me 20 years of speaking an almost secret language, of medical terms, of procedures and processes, and of looks, of eyes made across the room, of touches, some of which are comforting and some of which are patronizing. It means 20 years of remembering the tone in which the doctor described my cancerous testicle as problematic. It means 20 years of some beautiful scars which tell my story so vividly, but which I hated so much for the first 5 years after. It means 20 years of my not-so-close family and friends still asking me, how are you feeling? because the only thing they know about me was that in 2001 I had cancer, and that's kind of a memorable story. It's 20 years of knowing that medical care is highly bureaucratic and sometimes frustratingly slow, but that the opposite can be even scarier. When it all happens so quickly and with a lot of attention to you, it's not because the health system is suddenly magically perfect and well-funded and well-supported, but it's because there's an emergency, and it's never good to have an emergency. It's 20 years of me thinking about my fertility, and specifically my infertility, and what that means to me as a man, as a Jewish man, as a queer man, as a family-loving man, as a sexual being, or as a boyfriend, as a partner. It's 20 years of anxiety around simple blood tests, and 20 years of knowing right where my good vein is. It's also 20 years of friendship with Doug, who was more than twice my age when I met him in the hospital, but was 1 week behind me in my stem cell transplant process, so I became his mentor. It's 20 years of friendship with my nurse, Kathy, who took such care of me, and now I get to watch her grow as a parent, an advocate for LGBTQ young people in America, and as a healthcare professional. It's 20 years of good struggle to get my head around what it all meant, and conversations about what it meant that are deep and meaningful. 20 years of learning to re-love a body that's scarred and weird and adorable. 20 years of knowing that my family would work tirelessly if I were ever in emergency, which I was, and they did. And 20 years of knowing friendships, some of which would be so important, and some of which would ebb and flow, but knowing that the most consistent would be those that spoke or shared my same cancer language. And 20 years of cancer, of a career talking about cancer, exploring cancer with people all over the world, and trying to convince people to stay talking about their complex experiences of cancer and not to retreat back into normal. Please, I beg of you, don't go back into being normal. And join this rich legacy of patients, of those living with and beyond cancer, of bereaved families, of sharing stories and wisdom and expertise, particularly about fragility and vulnerability. The scales of time have tipped, and I have more experience in this body than I did in the 20-year-old Brian's body. I hope I'd recognize him on the street if I saw him, but I don't know. That 20-year-old felt so alone in his cancer experience and his sick body. One thing that happens that eases the shittiness of that loneliness as you get older, however, is that more of your friends will get sick too, or deal with a sick sibling or a parent or a partner. It's not a curse, it just happens. It happened to you. It can happen to anyone. It's not fun for them. But I know two things for sure. One, it'll feel nice to have a bit of company for you in this experience. And two, you are going to be able to help others navigate their new life. And it's going to feel really great when you do. So just before I finish, I'd like to ask you to indulge me as I finish a short talk. I think we're going to have a Q&A, but I want to bring in a little Jewish tradition to just wrap up my talk. And this is a ceremony that usually happens at the end of a Jewish wedding, not a Cancerversary, but it's the breaking of a glass, or a plate in this case. The breaking of a glass was part of Jewish weddings over 1,500 years, meant to be a reminder of the destruction of the temples. And it happens at the end of weddings to remind people that even when we're at our most joyous, we remember things that are painful. What I love about this tradition is that the breaking of a glass is a reminder that a joyful occasion is not joyous as an opposite to the pain that exists in the world, but is joyous in partnership with the pain. Kind of just like the word Cancerversary. We embrace joy and celebrate Cancerversaries because it provides respite from loneliness or pain or isolation. We celebrate because it reignites our sense of community and collectivity. And we celebrate because we honor where we are on our journeys and know where we'll keep going. if you'll indulge me. The traditional ending you'll hear when you break a glass at a wedding is Mazel Tov, congratulations. But I'd prefer in your own time, you can say the word L'chaim to me, which means to life. Give me a second. I'm not going to break this on here. I'm gonna break it. I'm traveling, moving outside. Okay, hold on. Let's see. We're gonna hear. Sorry, my house is a little bit of a mess. This is the. Can you see me if I go here? Okay, great. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm a little bit nervous for this. Hi. I should have told my downstairs neighbors I was doing this. Happy Cancerversary to me, and I hope I get to meet you soon.